and welcome to this special edition of Global Insights on China's economy, a series of high-end interviews with movers and shakers, economists, and industry watchers. I'm Xu Qinduo in Beijing. Our guest today is Jens Eskelund, President of the EU Chamber of Commerce in China, here to share with us the EU business perceptions of the Chinese economy.
Jens Eskelund is President of the European Union Chamber of Commerce in China, and also serves as the Chief Representative in the Greater China Area and Northeast Asia for Maersk, a top shipping container company. He has lived and worked in China since 1998. He is fluent in Chinese and has deep insights into the country. With over 20 years of experience, Jens has witnessed China's transformations firsthand. As a leading voice for over 1,700 EU member companies, he consistently advocates for building mutual trust and increasing understanding between China and Europe to create more opportunities.
Welcome, Jens. We have seen the Chinese government rolling out a slew of policies to help grow the economy. What impressed you the most? How do you look at the policies?
I think a lot of the things that have happened were timely and necessary in order to bring stability to the system and rebuild confidence in the future prospect of the economy. What we have seen primarily have been efforts so far to alleviate local government debt. We have seen support for financial institutions, and we have seen support for developers so that they can finish these apartments that people have already paid for. So a lot of initiatives really geared towards creating a stable foundation, creating stability in the system, and that's very, very positive.
We'll speak of this transformation of the economic growth model, from relying on investment, export, property sector to now China is moving obviously to, using this catchphrase as a new productive force.
Yes.
With a focus on science and technology, upgrading of the traditional industries. How do you look at the efforts?
I've been in China since 1998, and I can see sort of the composition of China's manufacturing, the composition of China's foreign trade has changed dramatically. And I think China has made a very conscious effort to climb the value ladder and creating ever more sophisticated products. So I think, in many ways, high quality productive forces are already here. When you look at, for example, what's happening with EV, with batteries, with green tech, and many other sectors where China is really at the forefront today. I think that, of course, creates some issues from Europe, because a lot of these are sectors now where Europe and China will be competing head to head, because these are areas where Europe traditionally has been strong and where China is emerging as a very significant contender. That was not the case 10 years ago, because China and Europe are not competing in these same areas, but that you're beginning to see now. And that's where I think that there actually is a potential for an increase in tension unless Europe and China find a way to begin to talk about these things.
Mm-hmm. Well, consumption, of course, like a service industry, sort of related. Some say it's really about the confidence. Do you think it's about the confidence to spend, or the lack of confidence? Somehow people prepare for long haul. They tend to be more thrifty. In a sense, what can the government do?
I think, it's a natural reaction when you find yourself in a situation that many Chinese find themselves in right now. About 60-70% of household wealth in China is tied up in real estate. And when there's doubt where sort of the future value of that asset is going, the natural inclination will be to save and to wait and see. The thing is, the money is actually there. I mean, the Chinese people have never saved more money than they do right now. But it's just sort of the willingness to go out and spend some of these savings that is not there. So a big thing will be to sort of regain, to rebuild the confidence of the consumers. And one obvious place to start is that making sure that, that the real estate market is stabilized, that it finds a bottom, and people think that, things will be moving forward from here.
China has removed all market access restrictions for foreign investors in the manufacturing sector, a landmark move made by the world's second largest economy as it opens its doors even wider. The latest version of the National Negative List for Foreign Investment took effect on November 1st, scrapping the 2 remaining manufacturing-related items on the previous list. The total number of items on the list has been further slashed from 190 in 2013 to 29 as of this year. For China, the manufacturing industry is the earliest sector to open up to foreign investors, and it is also the most competitive, with a high level of integration with the global industrial division of labor. In addition to the manufacturing sector, China has also been continuously expanding, opening up in other fields, such as in services, finance, and healthcare. In late October, the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology launched a pilot program to expand opening up in value-added telecom services in the 4 designated areas of Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Hainan province. According to China's State Administration of Foreign Exchange, as of April 2023, the profit rate of FDI in China over the previous 5 years was 9.1%, higher than that in the US, the EU, and other emerging economies, including India, Brazil, and South Africa.
How do you look at those efforts?
Yeah, I think what China has been very good at through these efforts is to create a convincing case for foreign companies to move their manufacturing to China, to vertically integrate their value chains in China. And that's of course very good for China. You know, it creates jobs here. Companies are moving their R&D here, they are paying taxes, they are localizing supply chains. That's very, very good. We need to have a look at, again, you know, what is the value proposition for both China and for Europe. We still think, of course, that there is tremendous value being created by European companies in China, European subsidiaries here. But I think we need to recognize that that value is not universally recognized in all places. And maybe also take a look at how can we make sure that sort of the benefits of globalization, of these interdependencies, of this interaction, that they are sort of being distributed in an equitable manner between trade partners.
Well, let's shift it to the issues between China and the European Union, of course, the EV tariffs right now. Are you confident that they are in negotiation right now, try to find a way acceptable to both sides to avoid a trade war? So what's your expectation? Can they find a proper problem? People would say they have to find a proper solution to that, right?
Last year, EVs accounted for 1.8% of European import from China.
That right, small part.
Exactly, and that's what to me is a little bit surprising. We spend so much energy talking about 1.8%, where maybe we should look a little bit more of the 98.2%.
Exactly.
Where actually Chinese exports are doing very fine. If you look at the first half of the year, Chinese exports to Europe in volume terms, the number of containers shipped actually grew by 10-11% or so. With the exception of North America, we're actually seeing China taking market share in all other markets in terms of its exports. So China is doing fantastically well. Now our expectation is that global growth in container volumes will grow around maybe 7% this year. And 6% of these 7% is due to growth out of China. So growing 6-7% is twice as fast as global economic growth. So, I mean, deglobalization, onshoring, friendshoring, nearshoring, we don't really see it in the figures. Maybe we see a fragmentation and we see sort of a regrouping of trade patterns, but really in this particular year, 2024, we have seen a quite strong trade performance.
Staying on the topic of the Chinese economy,
yes,
the target growth for 2024 is about 5%. How do you look at the target? Will the Chinese economy grow around 5%? Will that be realized?
For me, actually, the GDP number is not super important. What is important to me is the composition of the GDP number. If you have a very high investment component, that is perhaps not fantastically important to us as European businesses. What we're looking at, for example, is consumption. How big is the consumption growth? So for us, really what constitutes healthy growth is that there is a reasonable distribution between the different components of GDP, whether it's consumption, whether it's export, or whether it's investment. And that's where we hope that we over time will begin to see that there is a realignment of sort of the components of GDP, so it tilts more towards the consumption side.
Thank you, Jens. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.